Hi, you've reached Call Your Publicist, your go-to source for PR moves, media moments, and brand strategies that keep businesses and people in the headlines for the right reasons. I'm one of your hosts, Jenna CEO and founder of JMG Public Relations.
And I'm your co-host, Alexandra Anastasio. Let's start talking.
Welcome back. Today we're talking about the power of team bonding. And this is a topic that I thought was really important because at JMG, it's something that we do often. We're actually doing it this evening.
Yeah. Happy hour.
Yes,
Happy
exciting.
hour.
We have not all of our team, but a bunch of team members.
Tri-state area. Whoever's here in the area getting together.
Yep. So we're doing a team bonding event tonight. But I wanted to talk about this because before working here, I worked at a large corporation and we never did these kind of things. And I feel like that team bonding, just if you even call it bonding, really just happened because you were sitting at your desk and you might be talking to somebody behind you, but that was the extent of like those connections. But here you plan these events, some of them bigger, some smaller. We just recently this past summer had our company retreat, which was so fun. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But I wanted to just kind of kick it off and ask you what led to the creation of these retreats and doing these type of events?
That's a good question because it evolved. And, I should also say too, what was interesting is that we're so accustomed to these kind of team bonding events, but, and I get reminded that it's not normal that all companies do this because I was in one of my entrepreneurial groups and we were doing a discussion and one of the people presented their, something they were thinking about and how did they do it better? And did anyone have any insights about it? And they asked about employee culture. They were like, he basically explained that they don't really do anything, minimal, really nothing. And so I was taking notes as he was talking. I was like, okay, I have notes.
Stop right there.
Let me go through it all. I'm just going to read it. Let me know if you have questions. And I just went through everything that we do. And at the end of it, they kind of laughed. They're like, oh, wow,
that's a lot of stuff.
You really have a lot of stuff. And so those instances remind me that, how important it is, but also how important employee culture is for us.
Right.
And, I think it evolved because at one point, before COVID, we were fully in office. Everybody was here.
You saw each other every day.
Every
maybe
day.
you didn't want to hang out afterwards.
Right. And so it wasn't as important to have those moments. But the things that we started to do in person prior to COVID was we also are very regimented with our team meetings, right? Which we're also very good at doing in comparison to other companies. And I've always built that in, that's from my entrepreneurial meetings that I have with my groups that I pulled everybody's thoughts together and we formatted our own version of that. But one of the key meetings we do is our team meetings with our group team meetings with the entire staff every month. So prior to COVID, that was in person.
Okay.
And we do some fun things around the neighborhood. Like one time we did the top of the World Trade Center, that restaurant. We went there, had drinks, and we did our team meeting. There was a speakeasy behind a bodega nearby, Seaport. We did that. So we had fun with it, right? We want to create a balance of that fun,
that's pretty cool.
Solid work.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and those are good spots too.
Yeah.
So once COVID happened, we went remote.
Right.
So we were doing things virtual, and then our team, because our team expanded outside the tri-state area, they're around the country. We're not coming in the office full time anymore, right? Because you can't ask the tri-state area people to come in, but not the remote people. It's a hard balance. So we've enjoyed the work-life balance, right? So once we went remote, we have our own meetings that are, fun bonding experiences, our daily sip the teas.
Right.
And we still do our monthly team meetings, but they're virtual. So those have changed. And we wanted to make sure, aside from our daily sip the teas, which are a lot of fun, and that's the virtual bonding.
Right.
I wanted there to be some sort of in-person. And so the only way to do that is to make it a formal retreat, make it a formal gathering.
Right.
So that's where our summer retreats came into play.
Those are fun.
And then our holiday parties are big. So realistically, our two big markers now are our summer retreat, which is generally between July and August. I try to lean more towards July, post 4th of July, where now it's evolved into now people fly in and we do an overnighter where it wasn't always that. But we also then do our holiday party, which is just as big. And I think it's important for our culture, and this isn't right for everybody, but that we spend a lot of money as a company on those two big markers because we're not due in person. Those in-person opportunities are really important for team bonding.
Right.
And I also think it's a give back to them, to the staff, because they all work so hard, and I want them to have fun and be able to enjoy each other's presence.
So when you were in your entrepreneur group, I'm curious, was anybody asking so some of them might not have been doing those things.
Right.
Were there anybody, or was there anybody, I should say, asking you, like, what are the core benefits to doing that? Like, because obviously it has to make sense from a company perspective as well. I mean, we all just want to have a good time, but there has to be a reason
Balance.
from a company perspective. So anybody who might have, and they don't have, they could range from, larger gatherings to smaller, but what are the benefits for a business, an entrepreneur to say, hey, I want to implement this into my business, because I know it has to make sense from that perspective.
Correct, right. So I think one of the obvious ones is that it boosts morale, right? Motivation, right? Employees feel appreciated. So very given on that front. But it's also important to recognize that and find a space for that, especially if it's a remote team. You kind of at that point have to carve out, how do I create that motivation? Because it's very hard to do on Zoom. I think we do that well compared to most companies. And everyone is accountable still being remote. But I think there's still, you have to carve out more of that personal time for everyone and the in-person time. So the morale's the key thing, right? And then I think second to that too, it helps build trust. And then it's not just that's more from senior to the junior staff, right? You're getting people together, whereas normally there might be some formal conversations on Zoom. Like you're getting down to business on Zoom when you guys are doing your one-on-one meetings usually. We do try to encourage people to carve out time for those personal conversations. We do the coffee chats now.
Right.
Those, what are they, 15-minute?
Yeah, like the coffee mashups, and you get paired with another team member, which I think we do it like once a month or something. Yeah. But it's interesting and it's good because you connect with those. I mean, we have some people, let's say, overseas. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't see them in person. Maybe one day we will. But for now, it's just connecting with them through these virtual chats.
Right. Exactly. And they're being in different departments. You get to talk to people when you're on these Zoom.
Right. And then you learn things about them. And it could be personal. Right. Not saying deeply personal, but you learn things about somebody that you might not have known, because if you're in a work environment, you don't always have those opportunities, or you may not want to talk about like, hey, I'm interested in this, or I went and did this. So I think it's a good opportunity to kind of just let your guard down a little bit.
Exactly. It breaks down that role, right? If that just naturally happens between seniors and juniors. So you're giving an opportunity for your staff to be able to have a more personal time together and feel less guarded and feel like they have to constantly work. Because we also in our retreats a lot of companies will do it as working time. Right. Off-sites where there's some sort of learning and activities, but there's usually some sort of work relation to
And then it's usually, that's funny you should say that, because I did this once at my previous job. We had to fly out to California for a work event. And then they turned that work event after that was over into a work retreat. And I think it was like from whatever time, say 9 a.m, like the whole day was just like these meetings, and I don't even know when
tiring,
whatever it was. And then at night they had like activities, but by the nighttime I was like, you just had me in a conference room for about 8 hours. I'm done.
Right. 100%.
So it wasn't really like, you didn't really feel like they were giving you something, because they made us work or listen to like speeches. I don't even know what it was.
And I do understand it's like, oh, well, that's where you want to give them extra learning and you want to help them grow. But for us, at least, I'm just like, I want everyone to have fun and just relax for a minute. Everyone works so hard on our team. So I think it's important. It was important for me to give that time to them. So we don't do real work, right? We do fun activities that are team bonding activities, but we're not asking anyone to use too much brain power.
Right.
We want to give them a break. So there's that component where it also shows as the founder of the company that what I'm doing to give back to the team. So there's that element, right? And showing the appreciation back. I think that's really important too.
So it's almost like for anybody who's an entrepreneur or, leading a company, you also have to be event planner as well, so to speak, because I think when you start doing or planning these events, I know some of the smaller ones, you do have the team involved, which is nice because it helps everyone get to contribute to what we're doing. But for the larger offsites, I guess you can call it, that we do, these remote ones that we're doing, not the ones that are virtual,
right? Because we, in between those two big key markers, the summer and the winter, we do a quarterly, quarter 2 and quarter 3 virtual team bonding.
Right. So we do a virtual team bonding, like we're doing tonight. We're doing a happy hour, which is nice. But for these larger ones, obviously, those are the things that you plan. So I guess you have to be like an event planner a little bit. So like kind of what, I'm always curious, like what goes into that? Like, where do you come up with these ideas? Like we just went to, for this past one that we did this summer, we went to Soundview in Greenport, Long Island, which was amazing on the water. Great. take me back every year. I'm good. But like, how do you come up with those things, right?
Yeah.
The previous year we were at Canosa Hall when it was like a little more
upstate,
more
Hudson
upstate.
Valley or
It was
Catskills.
right. So they
Yeah.
kind of had two different feels. So where do you come up with
Yeah.
those? And I love the water versus nature. Just putting it out there.
Alexandra
like
did
it.
not like hiking.
If there was no bugs, I would like it. Not a bug
Never forget, that
person.
was so funny.
That was.
So it's evolved. And before, this was the second year we did overnight, where everyone gets their own hotel room, and then it's a little bit different. So every year, I think I've just like bumped it up a notch, a little bit different. And there was, past years where we just did day activities, where it was
Right.
like the Yankee game, the suite at the Yankee game.
You did something once on a boat.
Yeah.
And I came.
Yes.
And I was just, I remember.
That was before you started working full time.
Yes, I didn't
part-time
work
with us.
full time. I was part time. I was doing some freelance
Oh my
work,
God, that was
and
so
you
long
had
ago.
yes. And I remember I think it was in September,
Yeah.
and I think I just remembered saying to myself, I hope I just don't get seasick on this boat. But it was really fun, and it was after work.
It was after work.
It was after work
Yeah.
hours.
And so it's grown, obviously. Like, that was just a couple of hours.
Right.
We've done dinner and a Broadway show. So
Cool.
now it's evolved to the overnight stays, which everyone seems to really love. But I also love just watching everyone bond together and they enjoy each other's
What
time
made you
together.
decide to take it from, okay, we're going to a Yankee game, and now
Yeah.
we're going like
So
overnight?
I look at dollars, right? It equated to almost the same, but I
Right.
also then look at the value, like the value of the team being able to stay in a really nice hotel
Right.
overnight. I'm like, well, I'd love for them to have that experience. And it wasn't actually, compared to the suite we had at the Yankee game, not
Right.
too far off. So
Right.
I'm looking at like the team probably really would love that. So every year I just kind of explore like, okay, we are in New York City. We have the tri-state area around us.
Right.
Like, what are our options? Because really it's a playground for us. We can do anything. But what do I want to give us as a unique experience to the team that they might not do on their own?
Right.
So I want to give them the best of the best in that moment. So we look at dollars, we look at what's available, the timeline with it. Every year we always did something different. I'm wondering perhaps in this, from your perspective too, like, is there ever a time where we should just keep what we have and why change it? Right? Like this year's event was fantastic and everyone loved it. Maybe we should do it again next year, so I don't have to keep coming up with new ideas.
And I think to that point, you can go back to, let's say, the same spot,
Mhm.
but the things that you do at the spot, right? So like this year, some of the things we did, maybe next year you might look at it and say, okay, you know what? That was really great. We did do the, that first night we did like the s'mores on the beach,
Mhm.
which was so fun, right? So maybe you might say next year, okay, I like this place, but let's try something different. We
Yeah.
went to a winery. So there's a lot of different things I think that you can kind of take the same location if you love it, and then just change up the things that you do there.
Right.
Maybe I know we all, we came up with the seniors, we came up with different like activities.
And that was
so,
new.
yeah, and that was fun. So maybe that gets changed up. So I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of different things that you can do.
Yeah.
I have to ask, what did your entrepreneur group, when you told them like what we did this year, like were they like, oh my God, I can't believe
Well, they
you're
were
doing
just
that?
overwhelmed by all of it in general. So there wasn't like one thing like this, particularly for
Right.
the retreat. They weren't like, oh my God, because they were just, oh my God, about the whole thing.
Right.
Because there's so much that's done between the meetings and the sip the teas and then the virtual and then the in-person. It's just, we really have a good structure to it. I think every time there's something, we try to fine tune it.
Right.
And then we also incorporate more people into it. So like this summer retreat, this is the first time I asked the seniors to help me in planning because it's a lot to plan the logistics and then
Right.
to do the micro of the actual day.
Right.
It's hard to do at once. So I said, you know what, I'm going to ask the seniors for some help and have them come up with their own activity that they host for those 2 hours. And it's nothing complex, but we even had, I think it was Kristen that came up with the idea of doing decorating the wine bottles.
Yep.
And also then coming up with the pitch for it, which was, we got competitive
Yes.
and decorating the type of wine brand and JMG's brand. And that was fun. So it was great. I don't think sometimes I could come up with these ideas because I'm too in it and too, focused on the overall picture.
Right.
It's great when people could come in and focus on one little thing and make it something really unique.
I was also going to say too, what I thought was from our retreat too, like how Kristen did that, right? Coming from the PR
Mhm.
side, right? Kara, who's very into astrology. And we also had one of those astrology
That's right. I forgot about that.
events, which
That was a virtual one.
That was
yeah.
a virtual one, but she infused that into hers. So I
Yeah.
think when you do these things, not only do you get to connect with your team
Mhm.
or your coworkers, you also get to learn a little bit about them, right? Because we learned a little bit more about, let's say, Kara and astrology and how she has this book and she pulled from it to do something for
Yeah.
all of us. And I think you start to let your guard down. You start to just let loose a little bit. I think
Yeah.
at sometimes, I come from a world where you worked in office every day, 5 days a week. there was no such thing as remote. And if there was, it did not happen where I worked. So remote was just, even if you were like sick now, like on a sick day, you'll work remote sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I just woke up, I have a headache, but I can get on my computer. It didn't matter. You were just home and you didn't even have a computer at home. We didn't have laptops.
Right.
You had a desktop. So you were not learning at home. So I think for this, what's nice is because we're remote, but yet we get to come together and then we get to learn a little bit about each other and just let our guards down, right? Because not everybody always hangs out outside of work.
No, and also
nice
because of geography, it's not possible, right? The people in Atlanta and in Alabama or California, it's not feasible.
Right. So one of the things I love about your entrepreneur group is that you're sharing, I mean, obviously everybody's sharing tips, suggestions, but you're talking about the things that we do here or that you do with your business. And so for others, they're probably taking notes just the way you took notes, right? When they were talking about things that you were like, okay, hold on, I have suggestions. So for any of these business owners, I don't know if they've asked you this, but let's say somebody's listening to this or they're in your entrepreneur group and they're like, wow, that's a great idea. I want to implement this into my business. Maybe I can't yet do these retreats, but I want to start doing these virtual events or team bonding.
It doesn't have to come down to dollars.
Right.
You
have to start somewhere,
You have to start somewhere. It doesn't have to be huge and extravagant and the best of the best. It's just really more so the gesture is the key thing in this.
Right.
So if you look at it, if you just want to do a happy hour, if you want to do it in the office, you just want to, I always think actually the biggest thing is not really doing it too much on the employees' time, because even our company retreats, that's always during business hours, transportation is during business hours. It's just the night over, of course, it's just those extra hours, which everyone doesn't mind at that point because you're in a great place.
Not at all. Not at all. Take me out of my responsibilities for a day. I'm good.
I think people would really appreciate if it's not on their personal time.
Right.
So it's not, you can do a happy hour, but I think it's better if it's a happy hour that's, starts at 3:00. Let people out early and then you go out and then they're done at 5, 6 o'clock and then they could do their own thing, right? It's not cutting into personal time. And I think people really value that when you can give that back to them.
Right.
Right. And there's no, personally, some people don't like doing company barbecues on weekends. It's family time.
That's true.
And yes, their families are invited, but perhaps make it during a work day to let them have the time and bring the kids. And I think they would appreciate that more than anything else. And I understand that cuts into productivity, so it doesn't have to be a whole day thing. Just think about what won't affect the bottom line of your business. Right. But at the same time, your employees are so important. You don't have a business without them.
Right. So even if you disconnect for a few hours or a day.
Right. What's the harm?
Right.
If they feel valued and they're going to love coming into work the next day.
Well, absolutely. And I think that goes back to the fact of, like I was saying earlier, where I came from, I used to always say here, like, for instance, like a summer Friday, right? Like I used to say, I don't understand why we can't work that out there was a bunch of us, right? So why can't we figure that out? You give your team, give them a little something and they feel valued. And it's like, well, oh God, my company does that. And then you talk to somebody else and they're like, wait, my company doesn't do that.
Right.
So it's a nice feeling. So I think those are the things that you can, especially if you're a new business or you're just starting out. I would assume for when you first started JMG, you weren't right off the bat doing all those things. You implement, it's sort of like start small, build
100%.
the steps.
Great example. That's exactly what happened. Also, too, it's good to know feedback as you go, right? You don't need to start huge right off the bat, and then it's a miss, and that was a waste of time and energy. You're going to be frustrated and aggravated, and you're not going to want to keep doing these things.
Right.
So start small, and even you can ask employees, what's important
get
to
their
them.
feedback.
Get their feedback. Take your senior
like.
staff and ask them specifically, like, hey, if I did, here's 5 things. What do you think would be what would resonate the most to your team? What would they feel? What's the right way to say this? Well, how would they feel valued in that?
Right. So kind of take your like senior staff members and just kind of get them involved like in the process and get the feedback so they can let you know what other team members, because I would think that too sometimes. And it's funny because we recently had a conversation with someone who talked about, their team and getting that feedback from their team and not always just being the one who leads everything. Right. So you want to hear, what is the team saying? And sometimes, people might feel like a little, I don't use the word nervous because that's not the right word, but intimidated to speak up and say, I didn't love doing X, or I'm not comfortable doing this, or whatever the case may be.
And it could be a way you could pull
So
them
like,
afterwards,
or I'm just gonna put that out there.
No more.
I'm only kidding.
Hiking.
I'm only kidding. I'm teasing. But really, I don't like
But you could
bugs.
also do polls that are allow
Right.
that kind of that fear factor of the one-on-one, like, hey, what did you think?
Right.
Versus putting it in a Google form and just submitting it before
so
or after.
It's anonymous.
It's anonymous. Or it doesn't have to be anonymous. It's just that it's people
You
feel
just
less
own it.
insecure
I own the
about
bug
it.
thing.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's pretty good. Like
Yeah.
a good idea.
And I also think too, listen, it doesn't have to have you might not have seniors, it could be really small
Right.
teams. You might have just 2 employees, which is totally okay. But then if you have 2 employees, think about, okay, well maybe I want to do something nice. Like I want to, if you're in New York, right? Take them to a really cool Broadway show. And it's during the week, right?
Right.
Off hours. But that's a really cool experience for them.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was going to say, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, sorry.
You just said something and I didn't want to forget it. But like, even if you don't have that senior staff, find like a team cheerleader, right? You do that. You
We
have
do
somebody
that.
who
Yes, and they could
spearheads
rotate it
things.
out, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone has it on their plate to be able to do, but it just helps me sometimes because I want to make sure we hit all of these things.
Right.
The summer and the holiday part are always my thing, but I need help with the virtuals in between to make
Right.
sure we are accountable to doing them, that we're doing stuff that they know the team will like and appreciate. Sometimes I'm not always in it because one time we did it was a really funny person that did not horoscope trivia with us. The guy was so funny virtually.
Oh, yes.
I can't always find these key things that will be a home run. So it's always good if I can help bring someone in just to help find me what this will be that the team will enjoy during these virtual things. And even those virtual things usually are like 4:00 for an hour and a half, and then it's still during business hours.
Right. So you're wrapping before the end of the day.
Exactly.
So for anyone who is thinking about doing these, just getting started, what would you say in terms of like measuring success? Like, how do you gauge a successful team bonding event? Like, what would you tell somebody these are the things to look for? Because obviously you want to make sure if you are putting dollars behind it, even if it's a small amount, that you're doing it correctly, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. So I think one of the things is the observed behavioral changes, right? So while we're at the retreat, while everyone is having fun, I'm paying attention to that bonding.
Right. So you're like kind of on the sidelines,
Right.
just like watching, like you're
Right.
taking it all in.
Right. So you notice then there's people that group off together. You're like, oh, great. They have, a group of friends. They're
Right.
communicating. They're enjoying each other. And, you kind of just observe the groups together. And
That
you're like,
connection.
Oh, the connection. You're like, okay, I'm doing my job because they have a really great environment where they're, no one's being competitive. If
Right.
you notice, we don't have that kind of environment. Everyone's very supportive of each other, and everyone really enjoys hanging out with each other. And so everyone has a connection to each other. Some
Right.
stronger than others, of course, just naturally happening. But it's nice to see that the team can go off and they have their side jokes. And
That's
they're-
a relationship
the
building.
relationship building,
Yeah.
right? So you can witness that happening, and then I know that's success because I wanted that to happen because I wanted them to have their time
Right.
where they can laugh and bond with each other. And then I know the teams are growing together because then they're building their personal relationship.
Right. So when you have that connection with somebody, you're going to work more effectively together.
Of course.
Because every day you're on a Zoom, you're on a meeting or some sort of conversation with your team members. So if you're connecting now virtually, connecting in person, no longer virtually,
Right.
you see like, okay, we're becoming a little closer. So now that bond translates when you get back to behind the
It
computer.
does. It translates. So like how they're laughing in person, they'll have now new jokes that they can even joke about later on. And then
Right.
there's personal things that they reference. Maybe a show came up that they all watch, and then
Right.
later on they'll mention it on their call where they're talking work. So it just helps pull, kind of not force the personal connection, but at least allows them room to have that.
Right.
So that way it just naturally carries over into their work virtual calls. And I think too, it's very easy to ask the seniors,
Right.
how did we go? During
Right,
our
what are your
senior team
thoughts?
meetings, I asked like, hey, what's everyone's feedback on it? Should we do this again? Did everyone enjoy it? It's always good to have that reception. So it's easy to just ask everybody.
Right. So
And-
you kind of see like that participation rate, I guess is what they call it. You
Mm.
see who's, especially if it's a virtual event, right? Like who's maybe speaking up a little more, who's a little quiet.
Right.
How does that, then you can tell, well, maybe if like most of the team is really gung ho, you're like,
Mhm.
okay, that was a good event or
Right.
that was a good activity or
Right.
something like that. But if everybody's kind of reserved and quiet, you might say, because you're observing,
Correct.
I don't know if that's something I
Right.
would want to repeat or replicate again.
Right. And recently, too, people have been coming to us with ideas about what to do for the next virtual event. So it's nice that you're getting their participation with like, oh, the next thing, because they're excited for the
Right.
next thing. So that's an easy indicator that it's working, right? It's only small key indicators that together make a longer impact. And you can very easily miss what what those are. But if
Right.
you're paying attention and realize the greater good of it, those are your key indicators to make sure to so that you know that this is working.
And to that point, so that's the importance, obviously, as a business owner, entrepreneur.
Mhm.
If you have one teammate, two teammates, 5 team members, however many people you have, it's kind of taking a step back, assessing what's happening, you know, and just saying, okay, what works and what makes the most sense, right? Like if you're looking to do an overnight and your team consists of all, you know, people who are parents, young parents, you might be like, okay,
Correct.
maybe we can't do overnights. Or,
Considering
right,
things,
so you
right?
have
Like
to take
I would
into
never
certain considerations.
put anyone on a plane to go
Right.
somewhere.
Thank
I know.
you. Thank you.
I know
I
there
don't
are
like to
people on
fly.
our team aside from you that are afraid of flying. So nobody needs to be, you know, having massive anxiety about
Right.
this. So hence why I don't think that I would, knowing that that is a fear, actual fear for people, I would
Right.
never put that on people. So it's like knowing those, like what, you know, how do we want to push the boundaries without making it something too forced?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. And I think more people should take that into consideration,
Mhm.
meaning put those team bonding events together. They
Right.
don't have to be huge. They can just be something small,
Yeah.
but it shows your employees that you like from an employee perspective, you feel valued. You get to just take a break for a second. You get to know the people a little bit better that
Right.
you work with. And you get to connect. And that's what's missing from not being in an office every day, although working remote. I always knew it was fabulous. I just never got to experience it.
I know you love it.
But no, I love it. But
I also think it's important to know from the leadership standpoint, right? There's always a method to my madness, no matter what I do, right?
Right.
I seem very chill to everyone, very low key, laid back. But what I'm doing, there's a method and reason
Of course.
behind it all, every single thing I do. So I think it's important for other leaders to say, like, okay, yes, I want them to make it feel like it's super easy going and
Right.
relaxing. Not that there's a crazy method to madness. More
Right,
method is
but-
just I want them to all have fun and do great work at the same time at the end of
Right.
the day, right? So it's important to know, what do you want to get out of this?
right.
What's the purpose of us doing this? What will be the
Right.
impact that you want to create? Well, the impact for us is creating great work-life balance and
Yep.
creating a great culture and giving back to the staff. So, and my indicators, I'm just paying attention to all these things that I've picked
Right.
up, and every team is different, so it might not be the same for someone else, but figuring out the structure to all of this.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
So for anyone who is thinking about doing these things, obviously smaller virtual events don't have to be planned long term, right?
Right.
You can say, okay, next month we want to do X, let's look into it.
Yeah.
But for something like the team retreat, right? We, like you said, those are things that happen once a year.
Right.
We like the overnights. But seriously,
again.
how long in terms of planning, right? If somebody's
Yeah.
saying, oh, I really like that idea, but that takes planning. And so
Correct.
obviously the holiday party, you already probably started planning that before we even hit summer. So everything I think people have to realize, it's just like any kind of event.
Yeah.
You have to start thinking ahead.
Right.
So obviously you're in holiday planning mode full force right now, but for the team retreat again, are you like, how long do you think
Essentially,
people should?
once one big event ends,
You just go into the
it's
next
a
one.
cycle, correct. Also, because it's, you know, there's semantically, right? I want to be considerate of the team's schedules,
Right.
right? If it's something that people are flying in for, we want to make sure that it's on their calendar.
Right.
You know, Kathy's coming from LA and she's going to bring her daughter this year to
Right.
the
So it
holiday
has to
party.
make
So it
sense
just
in
has
terms
to
of
make sense,
timing.
and we want to be respectful of everyone's time and their personal schedules. And then on top of that too is, do these things book out? You
Right.
know,
That's
does
true.
prices gouge? You know,
Right.
if you wait too long.
But if you also want a specific spot,
Correct. You want to make sure it doesn't get booked up, especially if it's like Hamptons North Fork summertime. That
Right.
books up. So we have to
Right.
book that in advance. So it's just like a lot of moving parts, but just knowing like all these, what are the factors that you have to consider for everything you do, right? All those little nuances, everything is important. So,
gotcha.
you know, breaking it down, everything you do.
We talked a lot about things that we do here. We shared some of the events that we've done or some of the team bonding activities that we've done, but we'd love to hear from you guys. So anything that you've done with your company, whether it's a small retreat, a big retreat, an activity, or maybe something that you haven't done but you think would make for a fun company
Yeah, I want to hear
bonding,
about it.
yeah, send
Maybe
us a
there's
message
ideas for
or
us.
drop us a note and let us know.
Yeah.
It might pop up in our next team bonding
Could be.
event.